Day 5, and we're on our way. I've kind of calculated uh, how far we're going to be running today, and it should be right at about 36, 37 miles to a small little town called Lorraine, which is right on the Lake Erie here. Uh, this will be day 5 of running, and hopefully, if everything goes okay, I should be there sometime within about 3.5 hours, maybe 4 hours. I don't run very fast, mainly because I don't want to put a lot of strain on the motor. So I just kind of take it easy, and I only want to travel about, like I said, maybe 3, sometimes 4 hours at a time, and that kind of relieves uh, putting major pressure on that engine to run all day or to run hard all day long. Um, it's a small engine, small outboard, so I'm trying to pamper it as much as I can. But anyway, here we go. Uh, we'll be heading out. Today's pretty good weather. Wakes are uh, a little high. Uh, they're going up to about maybe 2 feet, sometimes even 3 feet, but it's not bad. You can see the boat going up and down on them waves there, but it's only 2 to 3 feet high. And that's not really the big reason why it bounces around a lot. One of the main reasons it bounces around a lot is because the waves are short. They're not, long and like when you're out in the Atlantic, the waves are so long and so far apart that you basically go up one wake, go down the wake, go up the other wake, come down the other wake. On a lake like this, especially when it's a shallow lake, the wakes tend to be much closer together. They actually calculate them by the seconds. They'll say uh, wakes of 1 to 2 feet at 3 seconds or 2 seconds. The closer they are together, the boat has a tendency to actually go over one wake, and it's just, as it's coming down, it hits on the other wake, and that's what causes the pounding that you normally hear on a boat when you're going over these lakes here. I'm just coming into. I didn't. I didn't record the whole thing of being out on the water, mainly because there's nothing really to record unless there was some issues or something come up. But here I am coming into the port, and as you can see, most of these little places uh, all have breaker walls to help stop the waves from going into the little harbors and the little rivers or whatever you need to go into. So here we are getting into the little harbor, and once you get in there, it's of course it's nice and smooth, and you don't have the wakes, that you have out here. So it does kind of help, not only with the erosion, but also for the people that want to go out to the beach and go swimming and everything else. They don't have these huge wakes that they have to contend with. And right now, we're going to go ahead and head in and find a place, I guess, where to tie up for the night. Haven't really figured it out yet until we get there, whether I want to anchor out or find me a dock somewhere that's not like at a boat ramp, or stay in a marina. A lot of times, like I said, I do take, let's say, 3 days out of the week and stay at a marina, mainly so I can have the facilities, the showers, the toilets, and I also have electric and water, so I can plug in and charge my batteries while I'm staying overnight. And I get to at least wash down the boat or some and clean it up a little. It's pretty dirty now. But here's the the Lorraine Yacht Club, and this is where I decided to stay for the night. It's not bad. It was a very nice little place. Guy up front at the beverage and gas pumps is very friendly. Uh, we sat for a while and chatted about things I was doing on the Great Loop, things that I run into and stuff like that. And he was pretty nice. I enjoyed his visit with him. I stayed there overnight, and as I was taking off the following day, I went up to the shack there where he is during the day, uh, and I was going to go ahead and pay for the overnight stay that I was here. And I think I might have even stayed a couple days instead of just one, mainly because of weather. That's the only reason I would have stayed any longer, is because of the weather. Um, the yacht club itself was closed, so it was hard to go in, but the showers and everything else were still available. This is where I tied up, right here on this dock right here, and this is the view I had while I was sitting there. It was pretty good. Like I said, now when I started to leave here, I decided to go ahead and untie and leave the following day or the day after that. And as I went around and tied up by where the fuel docks were, which is where I have to pay for my days that I stayed here, and I decided to go ahead and put some fuel in too. Um, I started to look all over the boat and trying to find my credit card, and it turned out I don't know what happened to it. I had already lost one. I lost my debit card, and really didn't lose it. What it was is I left it at a restaurant that I had stopped off and had lunch. And by the time I realized I didn't have it, I called the last time I used it. I called the restaurant because that was the last time I used it. Asked them if they had my card, and they said, "Yeah, you left your card here." But I had already been traveling for about 3 days, so I wasn't going to drive all the way back for 3 days just to go get my card. So what I did is I just went ahead and canceled it and had the bank issue me a new one. They're going to send it to my house. And I figured, well, if I need it, I can always have somebody mail it to me or send it to me or drop it off to me. So it kind of, this was, losing this card was kind of like, well, I can't continue going because I don't have a card anymore. I don't have neither one of them. So it was pretty much, I need to find this card wherever it may be. And I looked, and I even went to the places where I ate. And when I looked up my account, I noticed that the places that I ate, I didn't use the card. All I did was using the cash that I had in hand. And it never dawned to me, well, why aren't you paying with your credit card? That's because I didn't know where I had lost it. So, and I think what I did is I left it at the last place that I used it was at the deck, where the owner of the place had let me tie up and let me stay there. I did have breakfast, lunch, and dinner there at the deck, and that was the last place that I used my credit card. So I called them and asked them if they had found a credit card or if they had my credit card there. And again, I was not going to go back for it. I was just going to go ahead and let them know they can tear it up or cut it up and throw it away. I had already stopped the use of it, so nobody was going to be able to use it. And here we are this is the first time that I was going to leave. And this is where I was coming up, and I was going to tie up right by the fuel docks so I could pay my bill. And then I was going to take off from here. Here's the fuel docks right here on the side. This is a pretty nice little building, pretty nice little shack. He's got some snacks and drinks in there, ice and everything else you would need. on your journey if you were going to take off. Uh, but it was right on the almost coming into the little river here, right at the mouth of this river. And because of the breaker walls, it was nice. It held back a lot of the wakes and stuff like that you normally get when you're out on the when you're out on the lake. Anyway, and like I said, Lake Erie's pretty shallow, so they tend to get, it doesn't take a whole lot of wind when they start getting the choppy wakes going up and down, and they're not big. They're 2 footers, sometimes went up to 3 footers. Just really depends on how strong the wind is blowing. But this turned out to be a very nice little place. Restaurants where I had something to eat were good. I did get to walk around the little town, and I broke out my little electric bike and went around and visited little places, and it was nice. Everybody was real nice and friendly. And here's where I was tied up, and I was looking for my card to give it to him so he could go ahead and charge me. And I looked for quite a long while. So I finally decided, well, I don't have my card, but I did happen to have cash with me, so I went ahead and paid my bill with the cash. But I couldn't really leave without a card. I needed to figure a way to get, money or get cash, quite a bit of it, till I'm able to get another replacement card. I'd already lost one, and now I lost this one. So trying to take off without another card was really not very good, because I didn't have that much cash. So it wasn't gonna take me long. At the most, maybe one more day, and I'd run out of cash, and I probably wouldn't even be able to stay anywhere. I'd have to just drop anchor and just eat whatever I had on board the boat until I was able to get a card. It turns out that there is a little town which I kind of figured was going to be the next place I was going to go, and it turns out that my neighbor's sister lived there, and she works there at the marina that I was going into. So I thought, well, maybe I can go ahead and go in there and tie up and stay there until I figure out how to get a card or something to me. And then my neighbor happened to say, yeah, I'm going to go visit them, my mom, and over there, and I'll be there, for about 3 or 4 days. And she was leaving the following day. So I asked her about it. I said, listen, I was just wondering if you could do me a favor. Could you go across the street, ask my wife to get you my credit card, because she had already gotten my replacement debit card, or my replacement credit card from my bank. So she said, yeah, I can take it with me, and I'll have it read. So that came in handy, the fact that she was coming over to visit her mom and her sisters, and she was going to bring me my credit card. So finally decided, okay, good. Now that I know I've got a credit card on its way, I can go ahead and take off. And she was going to be at the next town anyway, so I was going to have to get there anyway to get my card. So I went ahead and untied everything. I think I might have, this is why I feel that I stayed, more than one day here. I think I stayed an extra day, because I figured that way, when I get over there, it'll be the same day that she'll be flying in, and I could get my credit card, and I could use that to pay my bill at the marina where I was going to stay at, because I'm staying at, her sister worked at that marina. So I figured, well, I can stay there, and then I can explain to her that my neighbor was bringing me the card, and then I'll pay as soon as she gets in. So I was able to go ahead and take off, knowing that it was taken care of. The weather looked pretty good. Didn't look too bad out there. So I started off, and you can see it's bouncing up a little bit, but that's only because I'm in the channel, and of course all the water is funneled into the river like this. And this is where it gets kind of like a tide. It creates a current. So as you're going out, you're going to be fighting that current the whole way, uh, and until you I actually get out into the lake, uh, this current could be kind of strong. So you have to kind of give it a little fuel so that you can outrun the current. If you're doing for sailboats especially, if a sailboat does, let's say, 6 miles an hour at normal speed, which they do, they're kind of slow. So if it does 6 miles an hour, and then it turns out that you have a current of 3 to 4 miles an hour, I mean, your sailboat is going to slow down to about 2 miles an hour, which, it's a long ways. So sometimes the currents, when they get up pretty high, uh, or, you get 4 or 5 mile an hour current, sailboats normally have a problem trying to get past that point, because they don't want to move. They kind of stay steady. Uh, I had that same situation when I was running through a couple of the inlets as I was coming on the intercoastal on the east side of Florida and the other states by the Atlantic side. I had the same problems where the currents were pretty strong and they were actually pushing me sideways. So I had to try and stay in the channel so I didn't run aground. And sometimes that current picks you up and it doesn't want to let you go. So you have to kind of look at the situation, and a lot of times you can look at the water and you can see the changes that it's making, and you can tell that, okay, here's where I got to slow down, or here's where I got to do this, or try and fight that current. And same thing applies here to these little rivers and stuff like that, because all the water is being funneled into that river from the lake itself. And Lake Erie is where the water actually goes all the way down and goes down Niagara Falls. So if you're going down south on the lake, you're going to have that fighting current all the way down, because all this water is heading out toward the Niagara Falls, and then it dumps into the Niagara River down there by the falls. So you're constantly going to be having that current there heading one way, and of course we're heading the opposite direction because I just left Niagara Falls. But anyway, that's just life, and got to learn to deal with these little situations. I didn't have a problem because I can travel all the way up to about 28-29 miles an hour. So I had definitely all the power I needed to get out of situations where the current picks up a little bit or it's going against me. Same thing with the winds. When the winds are going against you, they kind of create the same thing. They kind of want to push your boat around one way or the other, depending on the direction of the wind. Now, if you have what they call a following sea, that means that the current is coming from behind you and pushing you forward, and the winds are coming from behind you and pushing you forward. That's about the best time to be cruising, because now all of a sudden when your boat is doing normally at 13 miles, 12 miles an hour, now all of a sudden it's doing 14, 15 miles an hour at the same RPM. That's because you're no longer fighting the current and you're not fighting the wind. So those are the kind of days you wish you could have every day, but it doesn't happen. But it does happen every once in a while. And when it does, you actually pick up pretty good speed. You make a lot. It's the same RPMs, which I normally run right at about 3,200 RPM. So it's kind of the same, except you get to go further. Here I am heading out to the next little town. So again, I did record some of the spots of being out on the water, but I didn't record them all. But here it is that you can see we're getting close to the next little town, and here's where I'm gonna be picking up my my credit card. So hopefully everything will work out okay. And so far today, everything's been going good. So until until the next part, uh, which would be day 6 on Lake Erie. After I leave this little town here, I'm only going to be maybe 2 more days on Lake Erie, and then I'll be going into Lake Huron. So I've covered more than half of the distance of Lake Erie now. So we're getting close, and this is about it. Getting to the end, and we should go to day 6 on my next episode, and hopefully everything will work out okay. Uh, Next film will be about this little town that I'm getting to, and the way they told me that I could find it is there's a nuclear power plant that's right there on that where the marina is. So until later, thank you and goodbye.